Hi, I'm Kyle May, and from Surrendered Image. I'm here today with Phil Callaway, great author, international speaker, and I just want to ask him a few questions, and we'll see where it goes. I don't think you can really tell with Phil here. So.
I can't tell. I have no idea.
So Phil, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with us, and I know you're a pretty busy man. Just wondering, are interviews kind of an ordinary part of your life?
Yeah, a lot of radio and TV. I can't believe people want me to be on their shows, but I appreciate you guys coming by. This is cool.
Well, great. Well, so what do you do for fun then when you're not doing interviews?
I watch Netflix daily, just 27 hours a day. No, I just put something on Facebook about that. We think we're going to live forever the way we sit around and do nothing.
I was going to say I saw that.
So. Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Yes, so
I did. So your answer was surprising me.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. I play golf. Yell 4 after shooting 9, and then write down 3. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
I bet. A lot of numbers there.
That helps me relax.
Great. So, you know what? I have to point out that you are indeed a Canadian. Am I correct?
Yeah,
absolutely. That's great. Well, Surrendered Image actually got its start in Canada. And what's interesting, though, is the majority of our colleagues are actually Americans, right? Even Greg Gay, the co-founder, is technically an American. I'm the only Canadian. And
I speak American as well.
Do you?
I can be. I'm multilingual.
Can you? Wow. Any accents? Can you do anything for us?
Not much. Not much. I had a call from a guy in Plano, Texas. He said, "Phil, we want y'all to come on down here and speak to us, but we're worried. Wonder if people are going to be able to understand your strange Canadian accent." So hopefully your viewers can.
You know what? And if they don't, we've got a little translator at the bottom.
Oh, you do?
Screen.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we speak American as well. So,
okay.
Well, anyway, I'm kind of curious to know what are some of the most confusing American stereotypes you've come across?
Well, you know what? I was on a radio interview in Chicago when a guy said to me during the break, he said, "So you're from Canada?" He said, Do you know a guy by the name of Larry Nickel? And I looked at him and I said, "You mean from Abbotsford? You mean the music guy?" He said, "Yeah." Now this was the worst thing ever because this never happens. I mean, I get that all the time. You know, my friend Bob up in Toronto, well, we're only 3,000 miles from Toronto. And there are, 35 million Canadians. So the likelihood of that happening, it's not great. I have found Americans to they're some of my best friends, and much of my work is in the States, and my books are all published down a little south of here, so love Americans, yeah.
Good people.
They're crazy,
that's
what I'm saying, and I like them for it.
Good. So, you're now, I mean, on top of your the great gospel message that you share in a lot of places you go, you're also just known to be very notoriously funny. And I have to ask, why are you so funny?
Why am I so funny? Yeah, my wife says that all the time. I got my start in comedy to keep from getting beaten up because I was a skinny kid, had the stereotypical only one vertical stripe on my pajamas, and was swimming on a lake one summer, and a dog came out to fetch me 3 times. But I was a skinny kid and was bullied a lot, so I got my sense of humor. A rapid fire delivery to keep the bullies from beating on me, and I would make them laugh, and honestly it worked. And I also got my sense of humor from my dad, this wonderful guy who was part Scotch and part ginger ale until Jesus got a hold of his life, and he had a comb over to die for that would weigh on him in a windstorm down to about here. He was a fantastic guy. I miss him every single day. I got my sense of humor from him, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So then, speaking about family, are they kind of a large drawing card for you with your books?
Yeah, I started writing, first of all, with family. That was, I was asked to write articles on family life, and I said, how in the world can I do this? I don't know much. I'm no, Dr. Spock, and my wife said, I know he has money. But she said, just tell stories and tell us there's hope. And began doing that, telling about my own crazy childhood and things that I'd seen God doing in our lives that were pretty cool. And people liked that. They like humor, but especially when it's attached to hope. And that's what I've tried to do.
That's great. Is there any particular stories you'd like to share with us?
Oh, I don't know. At Easter time, I was telling somebody about my son going past a graveyard on a Sunday. We were in the car, and he pointed out the window, there was a hole dug in the ground and a pile of dirt beside it, and he yelled, "Dad, look, one got out." And of course I laughed hilariously, but began to realize that's really the cornerstone of it all for me, is that one got out, that Jesus is risen, and he's the one who by his grace gives me strength to keep going each day, and enormous hope to think that one got out and can be with him forever one day.
That's great. That's great. So, you grew up here, right here in Three Hills, am I correct?
I did.
You
yes.
did, yeah. So, are there any? What was it like, to grow up in the shadow and culture of PBI? PBI, for some of you, would be known as Prairie Bible Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a staff kid, born in 1961, back when the Earth was still square, and I didn't know for the first week or two of my life what I was in for, but my memories are fantastic because I had parents who loved God and loved their kids. Despite that, I have to say that it was a fairly legalistic upbringing. It was a place where grace did not so much abound as it was sometimes talked about. But for me, what happened was it became all about the external, about measuring up, and I was a wicked little kid. And when I think back to the stuff I did, it's quite amazing that no one killed me. That's a tribute maybe to them, but also a tribute to this ability to keep stuff within me and not get caught. But that began to haunt me a little later in life when I realized that much of my faith is an external thing. And so it really took the birth of my son when I was 25 years of age to realize that I'd been close to the church, trying to measure up and look good all of my life, but very, very far from God, and that I can't do anything that is going to make me acceptable. He loves me, and that began to literally transform my life, this grace.
Yeah.
And so thankful. So I've told people, people will say that sometimes, when did you become a Christian? I tell them May 31st, 1986, because that was the first time in my life when I literally prayed, after my son was born, God, make me real.
Okay.
I'm tired of being a hypocrite. I just want to be real. And I've seen him do that in some interesting ways, because that's probably the thing I get almost every single place I speak, is people will say to me, "Thanks for being real."
Yeah.
Because we battle those same things. Thanks for not trying to hide behind religion. And that's been very cool.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Would you say that's a large part of the reason you do what you do then, now?
I think so. About 1/3 of my speaking is for secular audiences.
Okay.
Love doing that. But when I'm talking to people of faith, I want them to know that it's not. It is a relationship.
Yeah.
It's not this list of rules. Beside people on airplanes a lot, I think of a guy. I was leaving Dallas, headed for Calgary, Alberta, in Canada, and this guy, he told me he was a psychologist, and he diagnosed me as a Christian in no time, and turned to me, and he just said, "I've had bad experiences with Christians." And I said, "Really? Me too." And grabbed his hand. Well, he started to laugh, and we had a 4-hour talk about just the real stuff of life and about Jesus, and that was really invigorating for me. But we need to be real, and it is about that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of speaking engagements and all that fun stuff, and we've mentioned that you're an author. Do you have any? What's your favorite book that you've written?
Ha! Oh, what has been a blessing to me? All of my books have been such a blessing to my wife. The one that I get probably more feedback on than any other is a book called Laughing Matters, in which I tell about our battle with my wife's seizures, with going through the testing for Huntington's disease, which would, as of now, has taken 3 of her siblings very early in life. And so I tell that story, but do it with hope. I had an email today from someone who said, my daughter and her husband were going through the valley, and that's the book they turned to. My daughter, or she said, my son-in-law just passed away of cancer, but they were reading that together and laughing. And in the midst of whatever is going on, we all have that hope that we can have joy despite it all. So that's the message of that book, and that's the one that I probably hear more from people than any other.
So who are you hoping that? Who do you think will benefit the most from that book, or who do you hope to really? What's the demographic you really are hoping to reach?
Good question. You know what? Basically, our ministry has been to people who are hurting. And I think it was Spurgeon, the old preacher, who said, "Preach like there's pain in every pew." And there is. There just simply is. Across the street last night, somebody walked over to me and just said, "My wife just found out she's got terminal cancer." People will often come up to me and identify themselves to me by the single worst event of their lives. My name is Susie, and my husband left me. And that's, I guess, a result of me being real, but the humor leads to that as well. They laugh, and then suddenly the tears come. They're not so far apart, laughter and tears. And I'm hoping, if people can get an enormous kick out of the stuff that I'm writing, and I hear from them who say, "You know what, thanks a lot, my husband is keeping me awake at night reading me your book." And that's a really cool compliment. Someone said, "I've got it in my bathroom." That's the ultimate compliment for an author. To think that it could make its way into the bathtub and be swollen by dropping it in there. That's cool.
That's great. So are there any good books out there other than yours?
The Bible.
Perfect.
If you're asking me what I'm reading besides my own books, which I read voraciously.
Yeah.
I actually had an author say that to me one time. When I'm really depressed, I go and read my books, and they cheer me up. And I said, when I'm really depressed, I don't want to read my books. I'm even more depressed because I could do better. But no, I love different authors. I love the reality of a Philip Yancey. There are tons of books. My bedside, there's a dozen books at any given time that I'm reading through, even stuff by Ken Follett or whatever, but I love reading. I'm a voracious reader.
That's great. So as a humorist, you speak around the globe, right? And, actually, they say laughter is good medicine, but does your material transcend cultures, or do you have to be careful about what you say and how you say it?
The books have been translated so far into a dozen languages, so I can't read Chinese, though people think I can, because they write me in Chinese and ask. I don't know what they ask me, so I have to find a person to translate that. But humor is my humor is very word based. So if I say a certain, like if I say to you, my daughter went to school and got up in front of the class and said, "My mom won't be having any more kids because her tubes are tired." Well, that doesn't translate into Swahili very well. So I assume that publishers are able to find some substitute jokes. When I'm speaking there, depending on the situation and the translator, I've discovered that story is universal. People love a story. I have told in other cultures that have no ice except in their glasses, the story of me scoring into my own net in hockey. Well, they love that. Yeah. They cheer. They love the thought of me failing that miserably because most have, and whether it's soccer or hockey, they get it. It's universal.
Yeah, that's great. So, from your perspective, what is going on in the church today? Do you see any changes, or what do you think is going on in the church?
I'm just so bad at analyzing any of that. I think the thing that really irks me sometimes is we make such big deals of such little deals, and I rarely, as I'm traveling, see though doctrine is so important, and God's word to me is that final authority. But I rarely see the big doctrinal issues splitting our churches. I see these personnel problems. And it's so sad. We need to humble ourselves. And, I follow a man whose first words amid horror and spit and blood and being nailed to a cross were, "Father, forgive." And so I need to do that. I'm dealing with situations in my own life where people are mad at me. People don't want you to make them laugh. I think people want you to be as miserable as they are. And, I'm not climbing on that bus. but we need to just get better at coming back to what Jesus wanted us to do, and that's to love God and to love others. And I need that message for myself, whether we're in our church or at the job place or in our homes. We need to be people of great love.
That's great. That's great. Phil, do you have a favorite scripture passage? Like share with us?
Yeah. Romans 15:13 I love very much. It just says, "May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit."
That's great. Tim Hortons or Starbucks?
Coffee is not my cup of tea, I tell you. Starbucks is infinitely more expensive, but worth it.
Okay, all right. Toque or beanie?
Toque.
There you go. Moose or eagle?
I like moose, and I'm glad they don't fly.
So, who do you say won the War of 1812?
Oh, we did. We upped them.
I like you already. So, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police or Texas Rangers?
I think Disney owns the RCMP now, don't they?
That's unfortunate. It is true. It is true. Canadian Idol or American Idol?
There's Canadian Idol? I'm sorry. There is?
Oh, yeah. Isn't that where they got Bieber?
Yeah. The Voice. How's that?
Okay. Perfect. I prefer the X Factor myself. Yeah. All right. Jeans or dungarees?
Jeans.
Yeah?
Dungarees. Dungarees, man, that's almost Australian.
Well, you know what? I've heard some Americans use it. And,
really?
Okay. Yeah. Well, at least one.
Yeah, okay.
They're all the same, right?
I think you can fit a kangaroo into a pair of dungarees.
All right. Would you go snowmobiling, no matter how cold the weather?
No. I should say yes as a Canadian, but I'm old enough to say I'd rather be in Hawaii.
That's actually another good answer. I've heard it said that Canadians are as peaceful as hippies, and Americans are as wild as the West once was. Could you interpret this? What this means to you?
It means that the Americans, you know what? America was formed out of revolution. We were formed out of, hey, oh, you guys have that. Hey, you're sure that's enough for you? Huh? Well, don't go back to France. Stay here.
Oh, all right. Last one here, Phil. If you were trapped in the wilderness, right? Which deadly situation would you prefer? An igloo and a polar bear, or a rattlesnake in a tent?
Oh, the rattlesnake in the tent, I think, because it's not cold.
It's not cold. You're a Hawaii fan, yeah? I got it. All right. Well, Phil, if you could leave people with one thought today, what would it be?
Oh, this is where I say something profound. I think, you know what, given what you're doing, the fantastic stuff you're doing on your site, just one quick story. I was speaking at a teachers' convention. It was 5,000 people, and it was a lot of fun, public school teachers. And afterwards, there was something in the side room where there were 500 people in a little workshop, and one of them raise your hand, and keep in mind there was a row of beautiful Muslim women down in the front, and I don't know where everyone else was spiritually, but this lady raised her hand and said, "What religion are you?" Now, I had not been there to talk about religion or anything, and it was this thing of where I literally watched the people's faces go, and I said, "I'm going to disappoint you." I said, I'm just not religious. I'm sorry, but I've tried it, and I'm horrible at it. I just never measured up. And it's a list of rules, and I'm sorry, I fall so far short. But I'm a follower of Jesus of Nazareth. He's changed my life, and I don't always do a good job of that, but that's where I am. And I wish we would have had a camera on the crowd, because it was like you had just kind of let this tension out of the room, and they're looking at you, and they're going, okay, Jesus, I get it. And I think that's what we need to be all about. You know, he's transformed our lives by his grace, and so I'm glad you're celebrating that. Keep it up.
Well, thank you. Well, I really appreciate you doing this with us, that's for sure. So, thanks, Phil.
Yeah. All right. Kyle. Thanks.
God bless.
You too.
Sorry.
Okay, we're happening.
I don't
So, you know, we don't have little red lights on here, so, you know, we'll just do bunnies or something, man.
I like Kyle better.
Are we done now, or is this a blooper?
Was it that bad?
Was it
With a
terrible?
little red light thumb flashing? Okay.